up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more backwards thinking. Time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty.
Welcome to the Truth Forum, a forum to discuss truth in the friendly surroundings, like we do at home at the kitchen table. I'm your host, Dr. Tino Smith. I will lead compelling, relatable, and honest conversation. My guests will range from community leaders, professionals, and real people whose stories will touch and inspire you. Discussions will center around relationships, real stories of personal struggles and amazing triumphants, and compelling topics in the news and pop culture that have captured our city and nation's attention. If you would like to be a guest at the kitchen table, you may call my office at 269-962-5553. You can always visit us on the World Wide Web at kingdombuildersworldwide.org or email kingdombuildersworldwide2@gmail.com. I'd like to thank my producers, Brother Michael Campbell and Carl English, and camera crew, Brittany. A change is gonna come, everybody. My vision is to catalyze, energize, and bring things together. I want to share some things that are extremely essential. If you're going to be successful, a lot of this has to do with business and business opportunities. But if you're wise, you know that you go nowhere in ignorance of yourself. There will be no network unless you know who you are, and that you're in that network, and there will be no power. Reawakening African people, that we intend to take our rightful place along everyone else. See, that's how we started. So my job as your host is to do what they did in Africa. Every night they got together, sat around at the table, and they began to tell stories, share stories of tribulation, what they went through, what they had to endure. So storytelling time is an obligation of leadership. In order to make these connections, we must base them on our story. Yes, they did put us in a box. Yes, they drew a curtain at 1492. For those who didn't know, that was the beginning of slavery. But I think it's important for us to connect what's happening to us now and what happened to us then. At this time, I want to welcome my guests to the kitchen table, Deacon Douglas Jones and Mr. Michael Bowden. Thank you for coming to the table. Yes. Well, first of all, I'm going to really start off something. I usually start off real soft, but I just feel led to just come real strong. And I think I have the right kind of guest to be strong with me and make some things happen. So, you know, I got a phone call, and I am told there's a movie out. And brothers, we'll probably get a lot of phone calls, but I'm trying to find it. It was the movie with the ladies. Let me see if I can find that movie title. And what's it called? Girls Trip. Yeah, Girls Trip. Now, I know Queen Latifah is one of the star, and I believe Jada Pinkett, but I haven't seen the movie. I'm for sure the audience may have some response. I haven't seen the movie. However, because African American female has the highest HIV in the world, African American females. I'm not sure if that movie is almost glorifying poor choices, promiscuity. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie. I just saw some of the briefing. But I want to ask you all, before you even answer that question, and think about that question. And I know my studio audience is going to probably want to jump at it very quickly. But the movie is supposed to be about 4 or 5 ladies, and they're going on a trip. And in this trip, just based upon the image of the picture, because we three haven't seen the movie yet, it's like a girls' night out. And at this event, with what I saw, they end up, doing certain things that could be a poor message. I don't really know. So think about that as you tell me briefly something about you, Doug Jones, and you, Michael Bowden. Just like a 30-second intro about who you are.
Well, my name is Doug Jones, and most people call me DJ. That's what I'm known as. I'm a very family-oriented person. I have a pretty big family here in Battle Creek, born and raised, and have 3 beautiful kids, young adults, and 2 grandkids that are near and dear to my heart. I'm a very structured person. I like things to be in order. It may not seem like that all the time, but that's who I am. I definitely love the Lord. I'm somebody who is definitely on the side of God. There's a lot to tell. I'm not sure exactly.
No, that's all. Just for the intro.
Okay.
You're going to have plenty of time to come back.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Bowden.
And hi, my name is Michael Bowden, and I'm also family oriented. I'm married and have, I'd say, kids, lots of kids. And I am also a member at Kingdom Builders Worldwide. And I'm glad for my good friend Pastor Tino Smith to come back, and I'm glad to be a part of his ministry. Everybody probably know me as I sing. I was an athlete, and I'm a very how do you say usually always happy person. So I thank the Lord for giving me a chance and an opportunity to work with my friend Pastor Tino Smith.
All right. Well, here, I just got it just put up, and this is the information. HIV and AIDS. This is the number of black women diagnosed with HIV has fallen 42%. That means we're making progress, but black women still have the highest HIV infection rate among women of other race and ethnicity. The HIV infection rate for black women is nearly 16 times that of white women and 5 times that of Hispanic women. Now, last week I had a program with my 2 daughters. I think the name was Portia Presley and Callie Williams, I believe. And they brought out some really good points. So obviously this is a question that people may think I should propose to them, but I want to see what the men think about it. First of all, HIV and AIDS is an epidemic in our community, and it impacts black women, and it can no longer go unchecked. The Black Women's Health Imperative is committed to ensuring that black women have the access to the tools and the resources to support the information needed. So, someone asked me about the movie. That's how it got started. Someone called me up and said, well, Bishop, what you think about, and it just put up Regina Hall, Tiffany Haddish, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Queen Latifah. Forgive us in advance for this wild weekend. That's like the cover that came out on July 26th, and they're praying as if, it's like that whole concept, African American women, that they pray, they're spiritual people, they pray for their families. However, they're about to go out at the town and, do whatever they do. Now, again, because we haven't seen the movie, we really can't say too much other than the part that I saw. My question is, do you think there's a correlation between if a young lady saw that movie and let's say the movie did promote getting their groove on, do you think that impacts the culture? Do you think that impacts the city, Doug Jones?
Well, I think the women in the movie, they're very influential women. There are people that are respected in show business, and a lot of times when you have somebody with that type of impact, that type of reputation, people have a tendency to follow after that, and not just because of the movie, but because of who's in the movie. I mean, Queen Latifah, I mean, she's, everybody knows Queen Latifah and Jada Pinkett. I mean, like I said, they're very highly respected, in their circle and throughout the community and throughout the world. So they have a big influence on what people do.
So Michael, we really did not stage these questions, so they're up here probably sweating bullets because they have no idea what I'm going to ask them. But based upon what you said, so Michael, would you say that? And I don't want to become some conspiracy guy, but let's just say we're trying to destroy a community, and based upon what Deacon Jones said, you got these influential actresses, and they out doing their thing, and we already have the highest HIV rating. Do you think that could be some type of a hidden conspiracy or just the adversary trying to continue to destroy our community?
Well, I think in just about in every movie, there's some type of subliminal message, okay, that goes out to all different ages in the community. Some good, some bad. Just like Doug said, they are. Everyone knows these women as superstars in whatever they do, whether it be acting or rapping or just motivational speakers or whatever. But in everything that's put out today, there is some type of subliminal message, and then our kids watch it, and some of them will do what they see, and then some of them won't. And then it all depends on the parents, whether the parents let them go see that movie. As I know there's a rated PG-13, rated R for some people, some kids. But some of these parents today, they would let young kids actually go see that movie. And I don't think it would be proper because they would get the wrong message.
Yeah. And if there's anyone, we're going to continue on, but if there's anyone that's on Facebook Live that if you've seen the movie and you would like to share something about the movie, please just put on the in the statement aspect of in my page, and I will try to go back and have it read to me, and I'll try to respond. All right, let's move on. Black men in America. I got two intelligent black men with me today. They're both with me at the ministry. We are the most likely to be unemployed and the most likely to be underemployed or even unhappily employed. What can we do to help with this kind of issue? I know you're at Kellogg's. You're one of the supervisors there, managers there. But first of all, do you agree that we're unemployed and most likely to be underemployed and unhappily employed? And if that is the case, what can we do to correct that problem?
Well, yes, there is still some issues with black men not being employed, and I think the first thing we have to do is not have a defeated mentality. If you think you're going to be defeated or you think you're going to be nowhere in life, you won't be, for one. We can't use our environment, and we cannot use certain circumstances as a crutch not to get ahead. There are resources out there. There are things that we need to do. People in my age group and other black men can do to help those in need, and we need to reach out to those people and help them, give them the tools to be successful.
Michael, you want to add to that?
For one, as far as employment, you have to want employment, and you can't just sit at home to get that employment. I know when I was 18, I wanted to work. One, because I grew up not having so much, and so I wanted to get out there. I was looking for that great job, so I had the motivation to get out there and search. I know back in my time, they had what you called affirmative action as far as getting jobs, because it was hard for African Americans to get into the workforce because either you were black or you had a felony or something like that. It helped me to get into where I am, where I've been a locomotive engineer at Grand Trunk for 28 years now, and you probably know about it because you are the one that helped me get in. And I know when we had affirmative action, that helped Black Americans or minorities per se had a better chance of getting into some of the companies that we have, because I'm pretty sure if we all go and we sit around and sit and look at certain companies, sad to say, you don't see too many of our faces. Okay. Sometimes that's a discouragement of even trying to go look for a job.
Now, for the sake of the audience that's listening, I heard you say minorities. Were you putting me in the minority category as a black man?
I'm putting everybody. I guess I'm putting minority, saying everybody except for my Caucasian brothers and sisters.
So the black people...
everybody, let me say this. Everybody except for my Caucasian white men, put it that way.
So you're saying we're the minorities?
At that particular time, yeah.
Okay. Well, just to make the difference, African American people are not minorities. But I understand that teaching. But unfortunately, we're not minorities. We're the majority. We're all over the world, all different countries, and the reality is the Caucasians are the minorities. They've just been able to present a false message. No. And we'll talk about that later. But Caucasian, you're definitely the minorities. Were you going to say something, Dale?
Yes, I was going to say that years ago, when Emmanuel Temple started, and I joined the ministry, there were certain principles and certain things that were instilled in me that God helped open up my eyes to. Okay. And one thing that really stood out was never be defeated.
Never be defeated.
And my life hasn't been perfect. Right. I've made some mistakes. I've had some hurdles and some hills I had to cross over, but I never lost sight of I can do better. Okay. Right. I can do better, no matter what the circumstances are. Never give up. And I believe that there's so many things out there right now that are distracting black men, young black men,
we're going to talk about that.
from reaching their full potential. Okay. Yeah. And they just need help.
Mm-hmm. So, as I stated, I met with the daughters last week, and I'm going to almost share some of the same thoughts because I want to hear a different perspective. The role of the man in the home cannot be overlooked and can't be left to chance. This is a very important role, and it must be filled. Now, just think about that concept. It cannot be left, and it must be filled. It cannot and it will not be non-existent. And the challenge is it will be filled by whatever means. Something about that man, he needs something to fill that void. So one way or another, the young boys will find male leadership. But unfortunately, if you give the teenager that prerogative, he's going to pick people with the pop culture, iconic leader, or the social network of the communities that surround our boys. In other words, now they're looking to the people in the streets as their role models. If that is true, and two fathers at this kitchen table with me, and we all have had our challenges, how can we fix that? How do we fix that boy, young man that Daddy wasn't there. We were not there. We were not there, and now he's 14, 15, and he's going to go find somebody, and he go find the guy on the corner, and that becomes his father. How do the real father get back involved?
How does the real father get back involved? How does a real father get back involved into his son's life? Well, hopefully there's a communication string there where he can call his son or his daughter, or may I say also son or daughter, and communicate with them. That's a start. And communicate with the mother if need be, and then hopefully they can have some type of relationship by that, and then work its way into where the father was able to do certain things with his son, certain activities. Especially the world. I mean, I think based off of God. I mean, we have to put God in it. Make sure that you teach your daughter and your son about God and take them to church.
How can they hear about God if you left the house? Because right now you're looked at, and we're using you as an example. We're not saying you're the case. They see Daddy as a jerk. Mm-hmm. So how Dad gonna come in and talk about God? The question is, how do Dad get back involved? Is Mom preventing it from happening? And again, if there's anyone that want to chime in or ask a question, please do so. But what is preventing that father to come back home?
Well, first the father's got to want to. That's I think that's the first thing. He's got to recognize that he wasn't there, and that there's some things that he needs to do better. I think that's the first thing that has to happen. Second, the son, you can't just fix something overnight. Nope. It takes time, So it's more than just the dad coming back and trying to get with the son. The father's going to need some help, so that means mama's got to get involved too. Okay. So hopefully that relationship isn't broke down to the point where they can't communicate, because that's just going to prolong the process.
Okay. So what do you think contribute to the high school dropout rate, the imprisonment, the teen pregnancy, male or female, obviously? All these are the consequences that society says because of the lack of father in the home. Do you agree? Do you agree that is the case of the high school dropouts? And of course we can't have 100%, but would you say high school dropouts and imprisonment and teen pregnancy is all because of the fatherlessness in the house?
I don't think it's all because of the fatherless. I think it's both. I think of lack of discipline in the home, because you need the proper training and discipline and teaching your kids what's wrong from right, and let them do certain things that good and well that would not have any growth, for the positive growth in their life. So if you had that in the home, discipline and teaching them about school, college, talk about college, talk about how they can become an asset to society. Without that they are that they're not what the people say that they are, and which they're not a failure, and that they can reach as high as they want to go in life if they just pursue that with the parents' help.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Mike. It has to start at home. I don't totally agree with everything that the stats say, but it definitely has to start at home. It's got to start somewhere. It has to start with the mom. It has to start with the dad. Kids have a lot of distractions nowadays, and we have to stop letting society dictate and raise our kids. There are laws that we have to abide by, and there are rules. But, your home is your home, and that's where everything starts.
Right.
Okay. We haven't had any questions yet? Okay. From what I observed in many years as a teacher and as a minister, and this may spark some ladies' attention because I'm not saying I agree with this. I just want to share another point. And we're working with young people. When a boy is raised primarily by a woman, and let me give you a disclaimer. My mother raised me, okay, and I feel I came out pretty good. However, they say that if a boy is raised primarily by a woman without a man in his life, that boy will lack male strength in many cases. Now, just think about that, because what you saying? In many cases, I've seen single mothers resort to emotional manipulation in an effort to impose their will upon their older sons to keep his attention and respect. Now, you're not a mom, but you have mothers over your children and vice versa. You think there's any truth to that? Does that sound right? And ladies, you can definitely respond if you have a question. I'm going to say that one more time to my studio audience or to even on Facebook. There's some data have said that when a boy is raised primarily by a woman without a man in his life, that boy will lack male strength in many cases. And in many cases, I've seen mothers resort to emotional manipulation in an effort to impose their will upon their older sons to keep their attention and respect. What does that sound like? Do you think moms do that?
I think there's some truth to that. I really do. But at some point, there has to be some male figure in that young man's life, whether it's a brother, older brother, or uncle, or a teacher, or someone that has to step in and be influential in that young man's life. Because if he's raised around all women and his mother does that, I believe that's true. But there has to be a male figure to come in there at some point.
Is there any ladies that want to ask a question or anybody?
I want you to elaborate on the manipulation of the mother.
She feels she has to control her son somehow. Therefore, she resort to the emotional. First of all, that was a great question. Can you get the mic and take the mic? And I know we're live, we're on television, y'all forgive us, but I want the audience to hear the question. Well, you just gonna have to be seen. Don't worry about it. Just come on, because I want this lady in the audience. I don't know if I recognize her or know her, but she has a question. So we want her to ask that question again. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted you to elaborate on the manipulation of the mother to the son.
Okay, so she feels she has to control her son. He's big, 6'9", 6'5", 6'2". How is she going to control him? Therefore, she resorts to emotionally manipulative means to dominate him. That's what they're saying. And when she does this, she realized that inadvertently she emasculated her son. Without having a father in the home, the young boy would sometimes struggle with identity. Now remember, I was raised by a mom. Okay, so I'm not saying this is 99% right. Okay, I'm 1% for sure it wasn't right. But I still want to address the fact that with that gender confusion, almost turning into a girl in cases, not becoming a female, but respond like a female, Respond emotionally. Respond like that. We're not there saying that they've converted over, but because they're trying to respect mom. Because there's no father authoritative figure. So they try to respect mom by becoming emotional. That's what, and if there's anyone out there, ladies, please, whatever you want to say, please do that. Evaluate your boy and think about it. Are we in that position where now they get a false worldview and don't really understand the authority of a man because they've seen their mom? Now these young men, as a result, been men placed over them. So in school male teacher don't do well, male employer don't do well, male policemen don't do well, all because they're now rebelling and now they feel dwarfed in the presence of a man. Data don't have to always be right, but in some cases, do we see that in America? Do we see that among our young boys in the community? Michael, do you see that at all?
Well, I only can speak. I guess I only can speak because I was basically raised in a single family. Now, my mom had someone there, but they weren't there. You know what I'm saying? So I really didn't have a male figure telling me anything. It was my mom. But what I did, and I was raised in a different era. And so what I did, I made sure I respected my mom, but I think I turned to the sports. I turned to sports, and that's where I seen, pretty much my that male figure, and learning discipline. With my mom taught discipline, but also going into sports, where I seen that male figure, and they taught discipline in the sports, which gave me that, if I may say, that rough edge as a man should have, in a sense, So I really.
Now, Doug, you had a mom and a dad, man, even presently. So you've had that. So how would you look at it differently, or some of your peers that didn't? How you see that?
Well, I think like I said, I was fortunate to have a father in the home, and my dad was a very strong man, and he was he was a disciplinarian. So I had a father figure to look up to, and there was a lot of male influences in my life and in my family. I don't believe every situation where you have just a young man being raised by his mom falls into that category.
Right, absolutely.
But it does happen.
It does happen.
But at some point, I believe that in that situation, that young man needs some type of male influence in his life to derail him from going down that road.
Okay. So. Question, yes. To the audience.
Do you feel like in this era that a lot of times it's like there's no male bond with the children, boy or girl? It's like I'm with the mother right now, but if I'm not with the mother, then the kids is left in behind too, and it's like more a connection with the mother than the child.
You understand the question, what she's saying?
Mm-hmm. More connection with the mother, more than connection with the mother and the child.
They only care about the mama.
Exactly. I feel like as a mother, and we carry the children, we have this bond. I couldn't just leave my kids behind and not care about what's going on with them, versus the male can just leave and go on about their business and with their life and really just neglect the fact that you have a child over here, because you're not dealing with the mother anymore. You know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying?
So the question is, can a man bond with his child even though he didn't carry the child for 9 months? Correct?
Similar, yes, something like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
It all depends on that. Depends on that man, though. Some men don't. And if you're a real man, you do go and bond with your child. And usually ones that don't, they had a lack of something when they were raising. Because if you had a solid a relationship with your dad, usually it will pass down so that you will have a solid relationship with your kids, whether you with the mother or not.
All right. Anybody got any questions on Facebook? No questions yet? All right. Yes, question.
I can relate to that because I know a lot of guys that I know that they feel that they not with the female, then they really don't want to be in the child's life, and that's really bold. And in the situation, I was married for 15 years, and I have 4 boys and 1 with my ex-wife, and I have custody of my children. I take care of my children. And she left, and I have a strong bond with my children, you know, and it does have a lot to how you was raised too. So, and you know, I had a daughter in the situation too, and raising her, and it does have a big influence on the child both ways of what parent is there and how strong that parent's going to be to raise them too. So, and saying that, like, I understand the 9-month bond that a woman has with a child in the womb and coming out and everything in that nature, but as a father, I have a very strong bond with my children because, you know, I fought very hard to get custody and take care of my children, you know, even to this day. So
that's definitely a tough. There is no one answer, and thank you, William, for that. It's tough. I mean, some men might have an expectation, you know, when they have kids, you know, with their woman or their wife, and when that expectation or that relationship breaks down, then it's almost like, okay, all bets are off. Boom, I'm gonna go in this direction here. Right. And I'm not saying it happens in every case, but I think just because of that bond between that mother and that child, the dad really doesn't get it sometimes. You just don't have that, you know. But doesn't mean that you don't have to be there for your child. So, I mean, like I say, there's I'm sure more than one answer for why a man doesn't stick around after things go south.
And then part of some research, it says that back to the men in the house, the young boy in the house, they get so acclimated to the voice of women that they fear the voice and authority of men. I mean, think about it. The majority of the men that's in prison, I wonder if we did a data, would they all say they were single parent, raised by a single home? Do you think the majority of the men that's in prison or jail is single parent? Would you think, Michael, if you had to guess, would you think the majority was raised in a single home?
Yes, I think the majority. I would think that, yes.
What about you, DJ?
Not sure.
Not sure.
No.
Not sure. That's something we should get on data. Maybe somebody could Google that and let us know if that is accurate. Because I don't know. I would like to find that out. Do you think if we were able to do a data? Because if that is the case, then you know, there's some truth to this research. Doesn't mean we hold on to it. Now remember, we're just giving you data. Being a Christian-based, faith-based believer in the Ma'at and truth, we would definitely tell you what we know can be truth and what God can do. But right now, we're dealing with data that we study. Because they have gone through this, many are caused to feel abandoned. That requires them to submit to male leadership. And so guess what they do? They don't like that. So they quit their jobs, school, rebelled against the law, and in many cases, because they can't endure the authority of man. And I just wonder, is that really some truth to that? You said you had no problem with authority listening to men following the rules. But what about these ones that just can't follow the rules? I mean, just constantly doing things knowing is wrong.
You know, it's never too late to fix a problem, but a lot of times too, I mean, I see today a lot of single moms are getting their kids involved in sports, and that's a way to help bridge some discipline, get some structure. And okay, dad's not in the home, but you know, you got coaches. You know, you have guys like William who's coached. You know, you got there's ways that a mom can help too. Get that kid, you know, some male influence in his life. Somebody had a question.
Yes. Question from the audience.
I just Googled the statistics.
Yes.
The father factor in incarceration, this is from 2002, 39% of the jail inmates lived in a mother-only household. It's 1/5 experience a father in prison.
Interesting.
Wow. You said 39%.
Yeah, so a lot of them come from a family with mother and father.
But
Go ahead.
and I heard what she said, but I was sitting thinking about the prison population, because I think it's what 40% of African Americans are in prison.
So is that African Americans, or that just the population?
That's just the population.
Can you do African Americans? So as they continue looking for their research, some say this explains why many times the young men that grow up with the father deficit prefer to submit to women authority. I mean, would prefer to. I don't know how true that really is, because I'm trying to look back into my life. I had a problem with men authority. I personally had a problem with men authority. I did. Now, I don't know if there had anything to do with this research. My mom did a heck of a job raising me. But I had a problem with men telling me what to do.
Even outside of the home?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I just wish somebody could chime in if there's any brothers out there. You know, one thing about truth is we're going to just accept where we are so we can learn and grow. You know, we have to go and ask our boys, our sons, well, why do you rebel so much? You know, what is it? You know, what is it? What is it? But definitely that was one of my challenges. That was and it took God and growth for me to understand it's not the person, but it's the office of authority. And as I grew into learning God, I understood that all authority comes from God, and I tried to subject myself and submit myself to God. If there was no God, oh man,
Be a mess.
help me, Holy Ghost. So, that's where we're going to wait for our research lady to come back with her information. So, I still believe there's two distinct roles that should be implemented. So, DJ, tell me about some of your failures, if you like to, and then we're going to hit to the triumphant. Let's talk about some of your failures that you would like to share. You don't have to be as transparent, and then some of your triumphant experiences.
Well, looking back at some of my experiences, I felt that I had to be in control of everything. I felt that if I wasn't in control, then it just wasn't right. And there were some times where I was a little rebellious because somebody didn't do something that I asked them to do, or things didn't turn out a certain way. I wanted to be able to dictate everything that happened and needed to happen per script.
Per script.
And if it didn't happen per script, then something was wrong. It was somebody else's fault. It wasn't mine. And I had to figure out why. And I would get upset. I had that problem for a long time.
For a long time.
Before the service and after the service.
Because you went to the military.
Went in the Army.
So, before we continue with you, DJ, my wife is saying, someone said what now?
56% black men in prison from a single black mother.
50%.
56.
56. Did he or she mention their name? Because I want to say thank you. Thank you, Rosetta, for your information. Thank you very much. 56. So that's high. That's high. Love you, Rosetta. Thanks for you're gonna be my research person, because I got some more stuff that we need to look up to. But back to DJ. So okay. So you went to the military, being a mom, dad in the house. Why even go to the military?
Well, it was something that I felt that I needed to do. I was real cocky in high school.
Were you?
Yes, I was. I felt that if I didn't get
You was a homecoming king, weren't you?
homecoming king, yeah,
That's what I thought.
and played basketball, and I felt that if I didn't get
You was a starter, weren't you? Yes, I thought so.
where you going with this picture? I felt that if I didn't get the recognition that I thought I deserved, then I just didn't want to go to college.
Okay.
So
I mean, you're homecoming king, you're a starter, you got a mom and dad in the house, I think you live in a decent neighborhood. What was your problem?
Me? You know, it was just, I just think it was that group of guys that we hung around, you know,
Yeah.
we did things a certain way.
Okay, I got you.
And the service actually helped discipline.
I got you. Okay.
I needed
okay.
some discipline. So
got
that's
you.
not why I went in, but I gained that. You know, they break you down real quick in boot camps.
So what do you say to that mother that has her son, he's cutting up, he hasn't followed any rules, thank God he didn't commit a major crime, and she say, get out of here, go to the military. Knowing the military, do you think that's a good choice?
Not necessarily, not for everyone.
Okay.
It depends on the individual.
Okay.
So I would say somehow she has to find out what makes her son tick.
Okay.
What he likes, and I mean, military might not be the answer.
Okay.
Military might be a bad thing for him.
Okay.
But somehow, some way, she's got to find something that's going to grab his attention. Whether it's getting him into a sport, maybe going to a pastor.
Okay.
Somehow, some way, God's got to intervene there. If she needs, you know, that spiritual help, she needs that guidance. And that's a tough question because it depends on the individual. It depends on the son. It depends on the relationship.
Okay. Michael, what about one of your failures that you like to share?
Ever since you asked that question, I've been thinking, one of my failures. I don't know. I guess one of my not pursuing in a sense a better education. That's probably one of my failures. I remember when everybody was talking about college because I didn't have in the home where someone was talking about college. I did it just because everybody else was talking about it, and I did go, but I was just going just to be going. But I wish I would have took it more seriously. So that's one of my failures. I would say.
Okay. DJ, what about one of your triumphs? One of the things you're very proud of.
I learned how to listen. Keep my mouth shut. Sometimes, you could talk too much and get yourself in trouble. So throughout my career, I was a good listener. It helped me. I consider myself pretty successful, I guess. But, just be quiet sometimes and listen and learn.
And like I said to the daughters last week, I've been knowing you, DJ, for years. I never saw that. I really never saw that was a challenge because you've been a stand-up guy, great friend, great cousin, great member. So I didn't know you had that dark secret about yourself. And I'm so glad you have been delivered from that. But
yes.
No, really, man, you really good people, and I didn't know that. So congratulations on that. What about you, Mike? One of your triumphs?
One of my triumphs is, which a lot of people, especially our black males, I've been on my job for 28 years. And so I take pride in that because most of us don't realize that it takes for you to get out there and get a job and work so you can build an inheritance. While most of our young men some of them have that mindset of going out there to hustle. They never realize, hey, you can hustle all that time, but then when it comes time to retire and everything, what do you have there? So I really that's one of my accomplishments, being on my job that long, and the Lord allowing me to be there and to be healthy enough to be able to work.
Okay. So, DJ, where did you grow up?
Here in Battle Creek.
Same with you, Michael?
No, I grew up in Akron, Ohio.
Okay. What were you like as a kid, Michael?
Well, like I said, my mom was she was a very tough disciplinary, but pretty much I hung with my friends. But you remember them street lights when they come home, and if they had to come on, I had to be in the house. But the people that I hung around, we did a whole lot of things.
So you were rebellious?
No, I wasn't rebellious. I just hung around the wrong. I was
follower.
Yeah, I hung around the wrong people.
Okay.
My childhood, I did a lot of bad. I did a lot of bad.
Okay.
I was a good person, but because I grew up poor. Okay. I grew up poor. Didn't have much. I remember when them food stamps. Then we had the food stamps.
No.
I remember we had the food stamp. I remember my mom used to send us to the store, and we were so poor. I remember I used to steal the food.
Okay.
So just so I could keep the money.
Okay, so you were bad then.
Yeah, bad, but it was.
You were a thief.
It was survival.
Oh, okay, good.
Survival of the fittest.
Okay.
So, but you know what? Even in all that, it was. I still had something. And this is, and I mean this. There was something that was always in the back of my head. Well, God was always there.
Okay.
To telling me I was going to be all right.
Okay.
And it just so happened I'm all right.
Amen. Let's give God the praise for that. All right. Doug Jones, what were you like as a kid?
Quite honestly,
young person.
I was kind of quiet. Went to Lincoln School and, got into a few fights. But I had a big family, so I didn't have to worry about fighting alone.
Okay.
It was always a bunch of people around.
Okay.
Very quiet guy. Loved sports. Basketball, football, ran track, and I was just an average kid, I guess. Again, the cockiness was still kind of there. I remember I was a quarterback for at WK.
Is that right?
At WK, and I was competing with a guy named Marty Carpenter. And I couldn't throw that football like Marty could, but I could run.
Okay.
And so one day the coach said he put me in and wanted me to run the football. Okay, so all I did was run the football. I want to throw the football. I can't throw the football. So I went out there remember Armin Gilliam with the white rag, and I went out there with my white uniform on, and he told the front line not to block, and they knocked the wind out of me, and that was end of my football career after that. I wasn't playing anymore. Sports. But so I was a pretty decent kid, I guess.
Something you said, and my brother, Deacon DeJuan Smith, he said to me that he had an idea. You mentioned about the fighting. Mm-hmm. You got all this shooting going on in Battle Creek. Like the Wild Wild West. As you know, we're in the process of, purchasing Southeastern Middle School, and we're in the process of having a plethora of programs for the city of Battle Creek. He was like, hey, bro, you should put a boxing ring in the youth area. Youth building had one.
We don't have one.
I had one back in Indiana. Do you think, and bro, we're going to do that also, but do you think there's some truth to that, right? Get these guys off the streets. I got about 5 minutes, I need to close it, but get these guys off the streets and maybe do some punching until they get tired and go home. We got to do something. But give me 1 minute, say something to the audience. Time is up. What would you say to the men, the women, the daddies, the mamas, and give them encouraging word? 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Get involved in the community. Get your kids involved, and you get involved with your kids' lives. Whatever it is, they need you as much as you need them. And Kingdom Builders Worldwide, we're here. We have a lot of good things we got going on here in the near future and presently. So just reach out. If you need help, there's a lot of folks around here in Battle Creek, Bishop Smith, and the rest of the members at Kingdom Builders, and we want to help.
And I'm just to piggyback off of DJ, and I think make sure you build your kids their confidence, and tell them something good every day, especially your girls, and make sure that you just you're in their life as much as you can. Go to conferences and see how they're doing. And go to the football games and anything that they have. Go to it. Just give them that support so they can see that their mom and hopefully their dad is there to support them. But they most definitely need their self-esteem to be risen.
I want to thank my two guests for being with us at the kitchen table. I'd like to start and close by acknowledging my mother, Georgia Lee Howard Perry, and my father, the late, great Hugh Daniel Smith Sr. My mother parents, Leo Dell Perry Sr. and Ruby Elizabeth Perry. My father parents, they're all late, Edward West Smith, where I got my middle name from, and Gussie Smith. If you're going to network with power, you got to know your family. You got to know your roots. You got to always stay connected to the family, whatever that may be. And I want to encourage all of you, always have a map. You got to know where you're going. Have a globe. Understand the location. The children of Issachar, they understood the time. We talked about generations in the sermon today. There's all type of generations, but we got to know our time, and we got to know where we are in space. Thank you for coming. Let's pray together, brothers. By the authority of the Holy Spirit, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your kindness. We pray a word was said that may encourage somebody just to keep on living. God, forgive us fathers that have fallen short of our assignment and our task. And give us the courage. And we acknowledge and thank God for the mothers for doing all that they could. We thank them. For without them, I myself wouldn't be at the kitchen table. In Jesus' name. Amen.
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 I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running